Greetings from William Carey International University. We're delighted to be able to launch a new series with you this morning, and we are happy to be reaching around the world to all the corners where you are right now, and thanking God for you and your willingness to participate in this very important dialogue. I think you all know that we're about 48 and a half years old now, and this university is rapidly moving towards its 50th anniversary coming up in 2027. So we have a long history of being in communication and learning opportunities with students from around the world. And our commitment to scholar practitioners is deep and strong. And I think today, as we launch this series, to tell some of the stories that our alums are involved in, the work that they're doing, that God has called them to such amazing transformational leadership opportunities. I think that we're going to enjoy this. We're embarking on a new day for us, and we're leading up to our 50th with these stories. And then we hope that there will be ways to capture those in videos and in print, and just be able to share a little more about what this family's up to. So I'm very happy today as we start this journey stewarding God's earth and natural resources that we have a champion for all that is green and life-giving. We have our very own Lowell Bliss. He is the director of the Eden Vigil Institute for Environmental Leadership at WCIU. He lives in Canada and will be our moderator for today. So welcome, Lowell. We're looking forward to this conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Andrea, and thank you, everyone. It's and welcome here. I'd like to congratulate Dr. Andrea and the Office of Alumni Relations for this inaugural session of Alumni Journeys. This is the first. I think it's aptly named. Those who are alumni of William Carey International University have been on a journey with the university. But I think what's unique about WCIU and our alumni is, so often we talk about a university graduation as being the beginning of a journey, right? Someone has been at a central campus and off they go now into the big world, to implement all that they've learned. But our alumni, including the two gentlemen you'll meet today, are all scholar practitioners, which means they've been right in the middle of their context, right in the middle of their roles, their work, their ministry, their vision, their adaptive leadership challenges. And so for them, uh, they're not going anywhere, at least not geographically. And I think the journey that our alumni are on is really a journey deeper into their roles, deeper into the mission that God has for them, in this case, in Nigeria and in Chad, deeper into the insights of how to apply, by God's grace, the things they've learned at WCIU. So we've got two recent graduates this today, and so a chance to congratulate them as well for moving from being students to now being alumni. But we'll make those introductions shortly. I want to introduce our topic, and to do that, I'll share my screen. Okay, if I can get some sort of thumbs up that first slide is showing. Okay. Well, it's an important summer to talk about stewarding God's earth and natural resources. This is a slide that Samson would recognize from the class that he took with me this January, Foundations of Creation Care. This is called The 9 Planetary Boundaries, produced by the Stockholm Resilience Center. And there they've done the scientific research to understand, certain physical forces at work in the world, whether that be biodiversity or the introduction of new chemicals and novel entities into the world, land use systems. And they've recognized that there's certain boundaries that are safe operating spaces for the world's population to operate in regarding these things. But we can breach those boundaries. And you can see that in this slide, we've breached 6 out of 7 of those boundaries, including climate change there at the top, either in terms of greenhouse gas emissions or what's happening with temperatures and temperature boundaries as well. But this summer, it was announced that we've breached another boundary on planet Earth, namely the boundary of ocean acidification. So the ocean's becoming more acidic, and therefore its effect on coral reefs and fisheries and any number of things. So we recognize that the world is in something of an ecological crisis, and that those called into ministry, called into work, called into a vision of flourishing will be called to be mindful of this. Not only is there a global perspective of this, there's also local perspectives, and that's what we're going to hear, including this from Chad. So Lake Chad has lost 91% of its surface area since the 1960s. It's dried up and is drying up, and there you can see some of the progression. And that's meant huge implications, and we'll hear some of them in terms of, fisheries, people dependent upon fish protein, not only their food supply, but their livelihoods, irrigation, any number of things. So, that's another function of scholar practitioners spending some time at WCIU, getting that big world picture, and then journeying right back into their local context for the adaptive challenges that they're facing on. I'll end this introduction with a journey of my own. I wrote a book called People, Trees, and Poverty. It's just a short little ebook published by William Carey Publishers. You can buy it for a few dollars, and you can read it in a single setting. And I tell the story of showing up at the COP23 Climate Summit in Bonn, Germany. That was in 2017. It was the first year that President Trump had been elected in the US, the first year that he had pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement. We were facing a challenge. But before I went to Bonn, I stopped off in Paris, which is where the Paris Agreement, I was flying through Paris, but it was where the Paris Agreement was signed, that is mobilizing the world to take action on climate change. And before going through Paris, I was in, Chad, home of one of our speakers today. I was exploring some environmental missions options there. I was learning about desertification. I was learning about the Sahel and some of the struggles in growing food. I was learning about Lake Chad and whatnot. But right before I left Chad to fly to Paris, to fly to, or to take a train to Bonn, Germany, something came out in the news, and it came out in my news feed. And it listed the most vulnerable countries to climate change impacts. And in that news story, the country at the top of the list was Chad, So when I went to the climate summit that year, I took Chad in my heart, right? And you can hear a little bit about that journey from Chad to Paris to the climate summit in this book here. One of the things that I did in my quick little stopover was I stopped at Sacré-Cœur, the big basilica that overlooks Paris. Here is where we had a prayer service uh, uh, while the delegates to the COP21 climate summit in Paris were conducting their business. We looked out over the conference grounds and we prayed. We prayed the Lord would intervene. And this is a photo that I brought back from Paris, and it's of that fresco on the basilica. And there at the front, you see on one side the Pope at the time offering up the church to Jesus Christ. And on the other side, you see a group of secular workers, including, in this case, Joan of Arc and the Archangel Michael, you might say, and others, rulers, who are offering up planet Earth to Jesus. That's what our scholar practitioners do. We're going to hear from a commissioner of agriculture. We're going to hear from a program coordinator. They occupy that space of offering up to Jesus not only the church and their faith, but offering up to Jesus the work and the work that they do in what we might consider secular spaces, but it all goes to them. So it's a great honor. Now I'll stop sharing. And it's a great honor to introduce these two gentlemen. And we'll have a time for question and answer following this. But let's begin with Samson Bugama. He's the Commissioner of Agriculture and Natural Resources. And Samson, you were with me in class. My heart is knit with yours, but I also understand there in the Plateau state of Nigeria, you received another portfolio, and it has to do with a particular type of vegetable. But anyway, I'll let you introduce yourself further, and please begin. Tell us about your journey deeper there with God in the Plateau state of Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Lowell, and good evening, everyone from Nigeria. For most of you, it's morning. Those of you in the US, and it's so great to be with you. And the privilege, and thank you very much for the privilege of sharing my journey. This means a lot to me, and how God brought me through WCIU, such a great blessing for me, and the opportunity to share how that has impacted my work hugely here in Nigeria and in Africa. You know, God has increased our influence. The last I decided to wear a Ugandan fabric because it was in Uganda that I was elected the vice president of the African Potato Association. So God is taking what he began with us here in Nigeria and expanding it to be able to affect Africa as much as food and others are concerned. Let me quickly share my screen. I try to put it so that I can capture and be able to talk within the period. Can you see me? Can you see? Oh, great. Okay, so let me start from the beginning for me here. Okay, so practically I will be Lowell began to talk about stewarding God's earth and natural resources. And so just like I introduced myself, I'm Samson Bugama, the Commissioner of Agriculture and Natural Resources. So it kind of fits in very well that part of my mandate here is to be able to manage the natural resources that God has endowed Plateau State with here in Nigeria. And I would like to be able to narrow down in leveraging sustainable development goals, that's SDG 1 and 2. That's to end hunger and poverty, because this is around the space for which I work. Okay, so let me quickly start that this has a biblical foundation for me. And this is I see stewardship as a divine mandate to manage Earth's resources responsibly. God has kept us here per time. You know, generations have come to use the resources that we have come to meet. And just like Lowell shared in his slides, you see the effect of what we have been doing to the earth. And I don't think we're managing it too much. It's so heart-wrenching to know that we have crossed another terrible place. Okay, so there is a divine mandate for us to be able to steward the earth. And for me, I see that the place that God has sent me, just like we see in Genesis 2:15, is that it said the Lord God took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to walk it and to take care of it. So for me, I feel that part of the earth that God has taken me to is to bring me to this part of Africa. It's not a mistake that I'm here, and that He has committed this for me to do, to walk it and to take care of it, so that people will have food to eat. The concern for me is that in the global context, we have over 800 million people that are suffering from hunger. FAO in 2023, sent out these figures. And for me, I have narrowed my work to SDG 1, that's no poverty, and SDG 2, zero hunger. So there's a huge call for sustainable agriculture and equitable resource distribution. The Plateau State context where I work is that we have a very rich arable land with water, mineral resources, yet poverty and food insecurity persist. The context with which I work here is that we have on record about 48,684 children that are wasting. And in this is that they are not getting the enough nutrients that they need. And the wasting means that if nothing changes, they will die. If nothing changes, they will die. And we have about 470,610 children with stunting. These are, I left my office, I will have shown you. We started a project called Nutrition 774. We have 774 local governments in Nigeria. And we began this project of Nutrition 774. And I am saddled with the responsibility of getting this figure and dropping it down. Okay, but in Nigeria here, in 2024, our global hunger index, Nigeria ranks 110th out of 127 countries with a score of 28.8 in global hunger index. And then 18% of the population are undernourished, 31.5% of children under 5 years have stunted growth, and 6.5% children under 5 are wasted. So you can imagine that 5%, 6.5% of children under 5, if nothing changes, they are going to die. Okay, so I see this as a very serious mandate from God to change these figures. I'll be showing you how my story through WCIU has impacted greatly on me and is helping us to make the change. And Plateau State has a poverty index of about 43.3%. This is huge. And anytime I see these figures, I feel the weight of work that is on us. Okay, so that calls me to stewardship. But what does stewardship mean for me? Sustainable management, so that we're able to grow food for these people while we ensure that resources are used efficiently to benefit present and future generations. Just like I said, we are the ones that are on the saddle today. And by the time we exit the earth, will we be living it better? So how do we feed people? How do we use the resources of the earth and make it sustainable for other people to come and the earth is able to sustain them? That's the picture for me. When the class from that I did with Lowell, shaped my thinking very, very much. That especially the slide that he showed, and he talked about me seeing it, and seeing that in all of the environmental index where our world is going, but we must feed people, okay, and we must be able to. So how do we ensure that there is sustainable management between the earth and providing food for people? And that I see as my take in this life. So we for SDG 1, no poverty, we're looking at economic empowerment through agriculture. How do we get people to come out of poverty through agriculture? And it's the core of what I'm doing. So we're seeing people get into businesses through agriculture, how they transit from just agriculture into agribusinesses. That's one key thing that we are driving here. And the second is zero hunger, food security via climate smart farming. we're reducing post-harvest losses and fair distribution amongst people. Okay, so the key for me is climate smart farming. How do we farm in such a way that we're taking care of the environment and we are feeding people? That's very huge for me. The key challenges that we have here on the plateau is that we have land degradation and climate change. I mean, this is very evident before us. Yesterday there was a flash flood, which is if you go online and check Plateau State, yesterday there was a flash flood. Thank God when I got out there, today the tides have gone down, and we're grateful to God for that. So we have erosion, deforestation, and unpredictable rainfall. It's clear in here that you really can't plan that much except the use of technology that would help you now. So even the patterns that we use have changed. Post-harvest losses. Here we have up to 40% of farm produce wasted due to post-storage. In fact, when I came in, the figures were much higher. We've done some things that have brought it down to about 40%, but we have also set targets for ourselves to bring it down to 25%. There's poverty and unemployment. Many smallholder farmers lack access to credit and modern techniques. One of my friends, Jim, came from the US. Let me give you a short story. He came from the US, and I was bringing him from Abuja, our capital city, into Jos. And these farmers with hoes and cutlasses, you see individuals in a very huge field. Maybe let's talk about like 50 hectares, and you see them bent on the ground, and they're trying to use hoes and cutlasses. And Jim asked me a question. He said, "What are these guys doing in the middle of the large field like this?" I said, "They are farming." And he looked at me and said, "What are they using?" I said, "They're using hoes and cutlasses." He just turned and looked at me and said, "When will they finish?" And so that's the reality of smallholder farmers here in Nigeria. So efficiency is not there. So somebody will farm huge portions, and because it's not efficient, I tell you that in some cases we get less than 1 ton per hectare. Okay, so if you plant something like corn, that's maize. We call it maize around here. Some people get less than 1 ton per hectare. So our goal is to increase the land size that is being cultivated, and also increase the yield per hectare. Okay, here, because of so many factors, Islam, farmer header clashes, and all of that, we have a lot of conflicts that disrupt food production. So sometimes we are using the Nehemiah kind of strategy of some farming and some guarding the farms. If not, you have these conflicts that come in, or these marauders that come in, burn the farms, sometimes take illegal taxes from the people just to be able to keep them. So these are some of the challenges. Okay, so this is very key for me. How my studies in WCIU is shaping my approach to providing solutions. The first I would like to say is the integrated development perspective. WCIU's perspective, emphasis on holistic community-based solutions, aligns with Platoonic. So part of the things that I was doing, especially through as I walked through my course in WCIU, it gave me the opportunity of implementing directly some of the things that I was learning, because the emphasis on holistic community-based solutions, provided quick solutions for me. And sometimes some people come to me and they're asking, "Where did you get this solution?" Sometimes it came by just reading and praying, or sometimes doing my assignments and saying, "Can I translate this into what is physically obtainable?" I talked about the tree planting. There's a tree planting. We did a course, and then I needed to do my assignments, and then I did tree planting, and now it's a huge thing for me. I'm multiplying tree planting all around, which is very key for me. So this emphasis on holistic community-based solutions is very, very good for. It helped me. Then sustainable agricultural techniques, learning climate resilience farming methods to train local farmers. Lowell, I must tell you that when I was doing my project, my term paper, that I told you about, going out there to do my Lectio Divina, and then I saw the tree there, and I asked myself, This tree is going to sustain a family. So what do you do? So now we have started this project of cut down a tree, you plant two. You cut down a tree and you plant two, so that we become stewards of God's resources, while we also replenish it for those that will come after we are gone. Okay, for policy and governance, applying best practices in natural resource management from global case studies, listening to my colleagues or my classmates, from different parts. Ali, one of them, or you'll be hearing him after now, talk about solutions and the kind of things that they did. Those that worked in Kenya, in Ethiopia, gave me the cost to even study further. What are those things? Like when I give an example, we were talking about the wheat revolution in Ethiopia, and that sent me to go think. Talking, and today, in fact, before I left my office today, I was talking with a group of investors who want to invest in wheat and barley. Okay, just getting that perspective from those that I co-traveled with to WCIU, and then faith-based stewardship, that's integrating ethical and spiritual principles into policymaking. I remember when I had the time with the faculty, and somebody asked me a question, said, look, how do you sustain yourself? Okay, and I talked about three basic things, that has been, it's a process for, even the work for me, it's a process of spiritual formation, that has been huge for me in approaching my stewardship and the place that God has kept us. So WCIU has been very, very instrumental in my own leadership, and has provided perspectives that are global and that are earth-sustaining. Okay, some of the key initiatives I'll just run through, and so that, because I'm beginning to feel I'm behind my time. Some of the things that we have done through the things that we have learned in WCIU. We now do climate smart agriculture. This is uppermost in us. We're promoting drought resistant crops in cassava, in millet, and we're doing irrigation schemes that ensure water judicious water utilization. Agro-processing, that's one key thing for me, and storage. We're reducing post-harvest losses through modern silos and cold storage. And then we have youth and women empowerment. We're looking at mainstreaming and gender mainstreaming. How do you bring in? So we started something called Plateau Way. Plateau Way is women and youths. Okay, Plateau women and youths. That's way. Women and youth. Okay, and that gave us the opportunity to do training programs in agribusiness and access to micro loans and all of that. And we're scaling up. My boss and governor is very excited about this, and it looks like Plateau Way, the way Plateau should go in seeing how we can bring in. Okay, so one other thing also that we've been able to bring is conflict resolution mechanisms, dialogue platforms between farmers and herders for peaceful coexistence. Okay, some of the expected outcomes that we are setting for ourselves that by 2030, we'll have a 50% reduction in post-harvest losses. I told you that we're somewhere around we lose about 40%. We started with about 50%, but we are seeing that we want to drag it down to 50% of what we used to have. We'll be on 75%. We'll be able to save 75% of whatever by the 2030. And then we'll have 30% increase in farmer incomes through value addition. We're also looking at 20% decrease in poverty rates via agripreneurship. Okay, and then our long-term vision is to make Plateau State make it the Nigeria's food basket through sustainable stewardship. So that it's not just that we're taking away from the environment, but as we're replenishing it, we create a model that will make us become the food basket. Not that as the years unfold, our yield continues to reduce. Okay, these are some of my personal guiding principles. Okay, my personal guiding principles. This will be one of the last that I'll talk about before I hand over. First of all, I recognize that the earth is the Lord's. Okay, as we see in Psalm 24, verse 1. This is a scripture that we kept talking about, and that we must care for it. We must, I'm using the word must, we must care for it, because if not, if we don't care for it, it will not sustain us and it will not sustain generations to come. Okay? For government, which I'm part of, is to increase funding for agricultural innovation. So that how do we get agricultural innovation that sustains, that is sustainable, that helps us to take care of, provide food for people and take care of the environment. And then for NGOs and faith groups, we partner in training and resource mobilizations that are God-based. And for farmers to adopt sustainable practices for long-term benefits as God intends. So my conclusion here is that stewarding Earth's resources is a moral, economic, and spiritual duty. It's a moral duty. We must do that. It's an economic, if we would continue to get economic benefit from stewarding from the earth, we must be able to steward it properly. Okay, then for me, through SDG 1 and 2, we can end hunger and poverty in Plateau State. That's what I keep saying to myself. If we keep these sustainable development goals and we keep them and do them in a sustainable way, we can end poverty, we can end hunger. Okay, my WCIU education has empowered me to lead with knowledge, with faith, and with practical solutions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Samson. It does all our hearts good, and here people are congratulating you and thanking you as well on the screen. I would say to our group, let's just take a moment of silence, a chance to just kind of reflect for yourself on what you heard Samson say. Maybe there's a prayer that you want to offer up again, just silently. Or maybe there's a question that you want to formulate that you want to ask Samson after we hear from Ali. So this will just be a moment of silent reflection, after which I'll introduce our next speaker. We are also honored to have with us today Ali Essai. Angobuna. He is the program coordinator for Chad World Concern. We'll get a chance to hear again the ways that global principles and global perspectives have been brought to local contexts where the roots of human problems are receiving transformational solutions. And you just heard me quote a portion of the WCIU mission, isn't it? So it's an honor to hear from Ali. We need to congratulate him as well. He and his wife are new parents of their second daughter. And if a WCIU education did not confer wisdom, well, then having two daughters in your household will. And so, Ali, happy to hand it over to you, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Lowell, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I am very happy and humbled to be part of this journey, and I want to especially thank William Carey International University for this opportunity that has been given to me to share my experience and also my journey with William Carey International University and the impact that journey has on my local context. So thank you. You've said well my name. I am Ali Essai Angobona from Chad. Yes, I work for World Concern. This is my 8 years in the same organization, and I am the project coordinator. So I was very happy when I saw the topic we are talking about today. And I felt like, wow, yeah, living in a country which represents the fifth biggest country in the world, and with a very little population, and with a very very low level of poverty, that has really talked to me, and I have asked myself many questions at the same time, and I felt like, so does it mean that this land is not well managed? So then I went deeper in my reflection. I want to share some points that I have recorded here for us. So the first reflection start with that this question: why stewarding God's earth and natural resources matters. And thank you, Samson, for your presentation. I think that has shared part of my views, and I went on, looking at the biblical foundations about stewarding God's earth and the natural resources. So the first point, I got it from the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 15, that we have right now read with Samson. God's creation is a gift entrusted to humanity. So that gift needs to be, of course, well managed, and also as a way of worshiping God, we steward the natural resources that have been made available to us. So as I was introducing, Chad is the fifth biggest country in Africa. And, Chad is also part of the Sahelian region. And, Sahel is, a region where today, when we talk about the climate change effect, we are the most affected, places in the world in terms of, the climate change effects. And I am part of that, side of the world. And when I looked at the scriptures, God has given the land to us to work it and to keep it. So how do we keep it? Are we really keeping that natural resources that God has entrusted to us? And I found that this is our responsibility to protect, the natural resources for the future generation. Samson has mentioned about the generations. We have received that heritage from the past generations, and our responsibility today is to manage well that resource for the coming generation. And the book of Psalm, chapter 24, verse 1 says that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it belongs to Him. So we need to be the good steward, to do a very good stewardship about the resources that we have, and to help us understand the context and the issues, and also to address well the problem. We need to get into the context, and I want us to understand the context of the topic from my local realities. And globally, the earth and natural resources today are going under enormous threats from several factors that I have mentioned, like the climate change and the deforestations. We have the resource depletion as well as the pollution. These are the factors that today are considered as a threat to the resources that are made available by God to us. So the second question is to know how stewarding God's earth and natural resources can have an impact within local communities. This is where I'm more interested, because I think before we solve the global challenge, we need to solve the local challenge, because it is from the local solutions that the impact on the global solutions, the global solutions can have impact within the communities. So first, as a local action that I started carrying out to respond to that topic is to start with educating the communities by creating awareness campaigns and inspire the new generation to know how to to apply that stewarding God's resource for the other generations that will come after them. And we need also to apply the inclusive community actions, and that solutions or this stewardship that God needs us to apply to our resource, the resource that are made available to us today, is first of all to come up from a social action. We do not need to go alone. We need to go, in group. And also, I started talking to the local churches about the actions that I started implementing within the local communities, because the church is the representative of God within the communities, and a project can have a beginning and an end, but the church is established and the church is more sustainable than a project within a community. So the local churches must also have a say and put their actions in that that fight. And of course, also to promote the renewable energy within the communities in their local actions. So I want to take us from the topic to an example of the local actions that I am implementing in the communities, in the context of the topic we are talking about. First, I am implementing a project entitled OVT, which means One Village Transformed. And the project is deeply focused on transforming the lives of communities in holistic way, from the state of poverty to the life of abundance. So how we do it through that project: first, we engage the communities by providing relevant solutions in climate change and in improving agriculture practices, supporting primary education, ensuring access to clean drinking water, promoting community health, and also by diversifying livelihoods. And that is to enhance the access of the communities into the financial resources. And when all these actions are put together, then the communities are equipped as leaders, and they are empowered to duplicate or to do the same actions by themselves and go beyond the level of the project. So the OVT project makes sure during the implementation that the community actions include the 6 characteristics of transformational development, which are: first, spiritual, holistic, inclusive, reproducing, empowerment, and sustainability. So the actions in stewarding the God's earth and natural resources must be, first of all, laid down on the spiritual factor, because these natural resources are a gift given to us by God, and we need to manage those resources from the spiritual context first, because we are not taking God to the communities, but God is already in the communities, and we have to work to let them discover that God who has, entrusted the different resources to the communities to be well managed, and it needs to be holistic. Stewarding the God's earth is to be holistic, because we do not, for instance, talk of managing well the infrastructures within the community without managing well the water that the community possess. And it needs to be inclusive. All the stakeholders are to be included in the process of that stewardship. And we need to make sure that the communities are able to reproduce the same actions in the other communities, so that the action can touch the whole community members, and they need to be empowered. And when they are empowered, they are able to also empower other communities. And the actions need to be sustainable. That is very, very key. And these are the 6 steps that the OVT project implement in the communities. So I want to talk about one village where we have tried a climatic smart agriculture or farming, that is Alage village, through a sub project called Establishing Irrigated Farm to Provide Sustainable Development for Women in Alage. And Alage is one of the village where we are implementing OVT project. So why is Alage community selected, and why is that project of establishing irrigated farm into the communities? First, we have learned that the agriculture in the community, which represent the main source of income, is totally relying on rainfall. And nowadays, being part of Sahel, as I introduced it, rainfall is becoming more and more very rare due to the effect of climate change. And we have also the availability of the natural resources in the communities. One, for instance, land, water, sun, and we have also a valid labor which is available to produce. These are the resources that have been given to the communities by God, and we need to know how to manage it as part of our responsibility to that God has given us. So the land is there, as I mentioned, very big, and with a plenty quantity of water, and the sun, of course, because when you come to Chad, I think Lowell can give a true testimony. The temperature, for instance, the degree goes up to 47, 46, for instance, from April, June, July, April, May, and June. It is really hot, and we need to know how we can make use of that heat to produce so that we can feed our communities. That was the question that we kept to ask, and the community came up with the question. We have land, we have water, we have sun, but we do not know how to use them. And then the project came up with the way of how we can use it holistically, in also the way that we do not hurt the resources, but we manage it for the benefit of the communities. And we have also selected women in particular because they are the most community members that are more available. And also there is a connection, a very straight connection between agriculture with the other sectors like health, education, livelihood, economy, and so on. So this is the project that we have started with the partnership of the community, Alage. And I want to make a mention that this is a partnership because World Concern was not the only partner to invest in that project. The community members have also come up with their own contributions, like giving the land, giving also the labor, and of course, part of the money has been given by the communities. And we started with different crops, but I really want to talk us about the onion farm and the cassava farm. These are the major crops that the community of Alage really has appreciated because of the benefit they have gained. So here is the harvest. I think the last harvest from Alage, and the women cooperative was able to harvest 217 bags. That is not the whole harvest of the farming, but part of it. And when you calculate one bag of onion, one bag of onion is about $27. And when you do the calculation from 27 to 200 bucks, there is a real economic empowerment within the communities. And of course, cassava is part of the drought resistant seeds that has been introduced into the community from the OVT project. And this is a part of the farm. And something very, very interesting with cassava is that any parts of the cassava is useful. Like the leaves are eaten by the communities, the roots are eaten by the community, as well as the stems are also sold into the communities. And I think Samson, coming from Nigeria, is well equipped with very strong skills about cassava, because, of course, Nigeria being a neighbor of Chad, we know Nigeria about cassava farming. So this is one of the picture from the community and the project field stuff. This is a lady, and why I brought up the picture of this lady, her name is Zara, and she has a very powerful testimony from the farming. And she said, first of all, she's a widow, and she said that from the agriculture they are doing in the irrigated farm, she's now able to send to school her kids and also to take care of them. And she was able to create a business in the communities. And today her business is going well. And when she talks about, this journey with the irrigated farm, you can read on her face the hope that that project has brought to her. And of course, the agriculture project, as I mentioned, the real impact is in the increase of the economy in the community. Community members were able to set up some saving groups from the farm, and this is the ladies from Zara farm. She's seated just here at the corner. You can see her smiling, because that is the impact of the irrigated farm onto the economy. So the production has initially set up to first solve the community nutrition challenges, and the community has their own customers that come to the farm and buy the productions, and they are not making long distance to sell. To sell their products. That is something very important. And they have set up a cooperative. Women have set up a cooperative that has its own identified customers in the surrounding weekly markets. So quickly, I want to mention about the changes that project has brought into the communities. One, the community members have been strengthened, and we can see that there is a social unity that has brought to the communities, and there is an increase of the community incomes, as I mentioned. There is also a creation of many, IGAs within the community members. And of course, this has created a sustainable production way in the community, since the surrounding communities are also, coming to that village to first get work, some job to do, and get some money. And of course, there is a hope that this project has brought to the communities. Children are in school, children are being taken care, and that is the key point I wanted to mention. Now, coming to my journey with William Carley International University and my commitment to serve, I want really to testify that, the journey I have had in William Carley International University is, of course, my prayer that has been answered by God, because I was still asking, God for the opportunity to build my capacity in the development sector. And then God has responded, and I got that chance. I really want to testify that. And I want to say that this journey has built me, because the skills I have gained from the WCIU has strengthened my understanding and the need to serve in the local communities first, and secondly, also this has strengthened my leadership and my faith, because every skill that we have got from the university was based on the biblical foundation, and that is those skills also have made me an expert from the field, because today I do not speak like a profane or like someone who is a stranger to the development sector, but I speak with a very confident way, because I have been built from William Carley International University. And of course, I want to mention that my capstone also focus on analyzing the impact of my work on the communities, and also that capstone has allowed me to capture my successes and as well as the area to improve.
Yeah.
That has also helped me to deepen my understanding on the holistic development. I think it is really very key, because I started looking very critically to the way people are doing development in my country and in the whole Africa, when listening from what I have learned from the university. There is no holistic way of doing the development in different organizations, and I started implementing that holistic development within the community where I serve, and I have then got a very clear vision, a very clear vision of a holistic ministry within the communities. So I do not feel like I am a development worker, but I am doing a ministry to honor God from what I am doing in the communities. So to
Actually,
conclude, yes.
Ali, if I may, could you go back to the slide of the women's cooperative?
All right, thank you. Yes, here.
Oh, okay. I think we are going to let that woman, those two women, we're going to let their smiles have the last word.
Okay.
And anyway, praise God. It's a wonderful story. And I've just put in a chat for the rest of us. Here's a link to World Concern, to their page about the One Village Transformed. And if you click on the tab about Chad, you can read about these three villages. But what Ali has yet to say is that those three villages each have undertaken to replicate in 4 other villages, right?
Yes, sure.
Without World Concern doing that on their own initiative. So that's part of the ripple effect of this project. I can't tell you what a joy it's been to hear from you, Samson, and joy to hear from you, Ali. Of course, part of the idea of an alumni journey is that we're going to carry on that journey. So that's one thing that we can say to the audience. If you've had a question, or if you want to contact Ali or Samson, we know where they are. And Andrea would be happy to supply email addresses or forward your questions on. But I think because of the time, we need to hand it over to Andrea to close us for this very wonderful first session of Alumni Journeys. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Samson.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I love those smiles. Yes, let's take those with us to encourage us along our way. So thank you for being our first guests in this series. And we're looking forward to September 12th, when we will be having our second Alumni Journeys gathering. And that's going to continue the theme of holistic mission, which is at the heart of community transformation. So you will get to hear some more stories from our friends who are amazing people carrying out God's love and care for the planet. So thank you again for being with us. And please, as Lowell said, love to have you be able to ask questions or stay in touch with Ali and Samson. And I hope you're reading the messages in the chat for a minute, because people are saying thank you to you. So we'll keep that on for a minute so you can see that. There's no rush with that. So again, we're grateful. Our hearts are grateful that you have enlightened us with not only the barriers, but the possibilities that lie ahead and that you're working on. So God be with all of you.